wait for another 2 minutes.
Sure,
then
sure,
we
sure.
can start. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. The panel is going to start soon, so please have a seat here. So we will start around like in 3 minutes. Okay. Everyone have a seat here, please. Hi, my name is Xinghui Lu. Okay. Okay. My name is Xinghui Lu. I'm from Taiwan. I'm the journalist from Central News Agency here. And I'm also the board member of FCCT. So because Taiwan has election in January 13 this year, our presidential election. So today we invite 3 experts to discuss about the result of the Taiwan election. How does it affect the geopolitics in Asia, in Southeast Asia? Also, what does the result means? What Taiwanese care about the most? And also the most important thing is about the cross-strait relationship. So our panelists today, Ajahn Sitipong Kratigan. He's professor from Thammasat University. And also Ajahn Pongpisut Busabarat. He's the director of ISS Thailand. And also Will Yang. He's the independent journalist from Taiwan. So because during election this year, the candidate of DPP, the Ching-Te and Hsiao Bi-khim, they won around 4 million votes to win the election. So actually before Lai's victory, no party has held the presidency over 8 years. So this is like a historical record. So I will ask Ajahn Sitipong and Ajahn Pongpisut. So what do you think Taiwanese people concerned the most during this election?
Thank you. First of all, I have to say thank you for FCCT to inviting me to the panel today. Regarding my observation, the first thing is that we have to, I have to remind you that the elections which occurred in Taiwan in January this year consists of presidential election and also legislative elections. And as many of you may know that, the victory belonged to DPP's candidate Lai Ching-Te. He got 5.5 million votes. Got 5.5 million votes. Followed by Kuomintang's candidate, Ho Yo-i, who got 4.6 million votes, and followed by TPP, Taiwan People's Party, Ke Wen-je, who got 3.6 million votes. And for the legislative election, DPP gained 51 seats, KMT gained 52 seats, and TPP gained 8 seats. It means that DPP cannot gain the majority in the legislative yuan because totally there are 113 seats. Okay, sorry. Because totally there are 113 seats in the legislative yuan, and the DPP need 57 for the majority, but the result of the election is that DPP gained only 51 seats. What are my observations from these two elections which occurred a couple of months ago? That I have 3 observations. Yeah. The first one is that despite the DPP's poor performance in some aspect during Tsai Ing-wen years, for example, the late procurement of COVID vaccine or the problem of house pricing, the DPP's victory in this presidential election shows that it is still successful in terms of proposing policy which resonated with the Taiwan people's life, hopes, and expectations. Yeah. And the second observation is that for the newly established party like the TPP, Taiwan People's Party, yeah, it is also successful in gaining 3.6 million votes in presidential election. This implies that a lot of people in Taiwan feel bored with the struggle between the two dominant parties, the Kuomintang and the DPP, on every single issue. And it shows that many people in Taiwan realize that the crucial question or the biggest challenge for any Taiwan's government is how to stabilize cross-strait relations without losing autonomy. It means that if you choose the DPP, it is highly possible that the situation across the Taiwan Strait would be more unstable. But if you choose the KMT, the Kuomintang, it means that the Kuomintang is going to compromise with the mainland at the risk of losing Taiwan's autonomy. So the TPP's candidate, Ke Wen-je, tried to propose a kind of a middle way, or the third way in dealing with mainland China. And the third observation is the DPP's loss of majority in the legislative yuan means that it needs to compromise with the other two parties in order to smoothly implement policy. Okay, this is my preliminary observations regarding the presidential and legislative elections.
So, Ajampo, what do you think?
Okay, I agree with Ajahn Sitipon in his observations in the first preliminary round. But then, but first of all, thanks for inviting me to join this. And very nice to have discussions on Taiwan issues. And probably I will have a couple of the points. So actually, I have 4 to 5 points if I would take some time. But I will try to just push forward for the few points first to highlight what the elections this time means for Taiwan, right? First of all, what you can see from this, right? Like Ajahn Sitipon was saying that this is a success of the elections and its manifestations of the consolidated democracy in Asia, right? So since the late 1990s, as probably some of you understand Taiwan politics and history, right? Taiwan has shown the regions that democracy is possible in Asia. Right, and then economic growth, the expansion of middle class, could translate into, stabilizing the liberal democracies in this region. So transition toward more democratic regimes is possible in this sense. So that things that we have to congratulate. And this is like the example of a lot of countries in Asia, right, that inspire to be democratic countries, including Thailand as well. So that's undisputable observation. So, but when we come back to the Taiwan itself, right, the second point that I want to raise is that despite the success of DPP, right, in the recent elections, so we have seen some changes in voting proportions this time, right? The result probably clear that the DPP didn't really get majority, so it has a lot of implications on Taiwan politics itself and foreign affairs, right? So basically, I agree with Ajahn Sitipon in the sense that DPP not getting majority this time suggests that increased tensions with China during the Tsai administrations, right, in the past 8 years, might frustrate a lot of people, especially young people, right, and this, and including on top of it, right, the lingering economic pressures to young Taiwanese, right. Like I have a lot of friends in Taiwan, and they always complain about pricing, increasing price, properties, they cannot get the good. For example, housing, for example, that's one of the main issues that play out in this kind of election campaign. So the lingering economic pressures to Taiwanese people also remains important. If you notice from why, like the popularities of DPP dropped this time to less than majority, that would reflect that kind of realities in Taiwan, right? So so this shows in recent survey, right, that the increasing number of Taiwanese identifying themselves as Taiwanese, not Chinese, or even not with both Chinese and Taiwanese, doesn't translate directly into supporting Taiwan's independence per se. And then, this recent survey in Ching-Te, surveys recently, it shows this kind of thing. So there's a lot of issues, coming up with this kind of result that we can look into in detail. So most of the respondents think maintaining the status quo with various ends, is best for them now, right? So the future will be determined, for the future generations, or perhaps, but not now. Like now they are facing economic pressures, most of the domestic issues, social issues that probably might be the first priority that they think about when they pick these candidates, right? So then it brings me to the third point that I want to raise at this round, is that Mr. Lai and DPP, right, may need to work harder, right? Once he is like assumed the power next month in May, work harder on his economic and social policies, right? In turn, cross-strait relations might probably be stabilized for a little while, just to try to get things intact in the first year of his term, or at least until the November elections in the U.S. to see the waters, how U.S. positions in cross-strait relations will be. So, but the problem is how to do so while DPP will have to still maintain the momentum within the pro-independence factions within Taiwanese politics. That's probably the challenge and dilemma, right, that DPP has to perhaps try to figure it out. So at least we can observe Mr. Lai's stance. During the elections, he was like sort of like toned down a little bit of his pro-independence. Well, he's probably, what I remember that he was saying that, well, he doesn't need to pronounce, or announce independence of Taiwan anymore, because practically Taiwan is a sovereign state, right? In that sense, it kind of like helped him to avoid addressing this issue when he becomes the president. So in that sense, that's suggesting that resuming talk with Beijing is also an option for him, right? As long as Beijing's treat Taiwan equally. That's what he gave the interview to the media during the election. So therefore, how Mr. Lai will be able to create this dialogue with China and probably try to fix that tensions in the future is that probably one of the policy challenges that the administrations will have to face. Perhaps stop the first round here first, and I'll come back later.
And Will, as a voter, like Taiwanese voter, and also the young generation, what do you think? What's the most important issue you concern during this election?
Okay, thank you for FCCT to invite me. And just for the record, I'm not an expert. I'm just like, I'm a voter only actually. So I don't have much like insight. But I can just offer my observation. Actually, for myself, this is election, the result, I will end it in a very simple way. For example, like first, the TPP is the biggest winner. And DPP didn't lose everything. And KMT didn't win. So it's that, I think that's kind of like this. And why like DPP? I mean, for my own social bubble, like we always see, Tsai's government doing quite good. The GDP is always rising, and stock market is rising, and people are, the ranking, all kind of rankings getting higher and higher than before. The COVID is not perfect, but it's okay. So many things I think is okay for us, but how come the young people, young generation, or some, not only young people, the other people, they don't want to vote for Tsai Ing-wen? I think because of I agree with two professors, they feel frustrated about the old politic, about the institution. So they just want to support who says two parties are both same bad. Like blue and green both are bad, so I'm the new one. So people choose the new one, doesn't matter what do they have. That's not only in Taiwan, a lot of places in the world now is happening. So I think that's one reason. The other reason is because those numbers didn't reflect to the young generation. They don't care about GDP. They don't care about the stock market rising because they didn't earn more than last year or the previous year because salary is still low and the housing price is getting higher and everything, the inflation is getting bigger. So I think that's one of the reasons. Even Tsai Ing-wen government done quite a lot of, statistically looks good, but for the young generation, they don't feel anything. That's the first. And the second one, and also, actually, the first time Tsai Ing-wen get elected, that's more like a sunflower movement period. And why those sunflower movement young generation support Tsai Ing-wen? Actually, Tsai Ing-wen is not typical DPP during the time. Typical DPP is more like Lai Ching-te or like Gu Kuan-min or Li Denghui. But Tsai Ing-wen during that time is not a typical one yet. So for them, and TPP doesn't exist. A new power party doesn't exist during the time. So for them, that's more like an anti-establishment. So of course, Tsai Ing-wen was the candidate and he got like a big win. And the second one, I think, because it's more detailed about the how do you promote to your voter that I'm doing good job. And TPP, they are doing very, very good for engage with the young voter. For example, like TikTok or like short video. That's the new generation, they use this. They don't use Facebook anymore. Maybe some people still use Instagram, but in Taiwan, I mean, I use Facebook still. But I mean, for the young generation, they don't. They see that's the old things. But for the DPP people, they hate TikTok because they think that's like a propaganda tool from the CCP. So they don't really touch it. And there were some like algorithms to avoid they to be appear on the popular slide or popular tweet. So they don't engage with this. And also like live streaming, they don't really do it. But TPP got a lot of people working on this. So they want, I think, half of under 35 age majority vote goes to TPP. And the third one, I think, is for the information warfare from the other side. Actually, it's not as strong as before, but you can still see some very obvious movement. For example, Terry Guo, he announced he just don't want to run anymore after the Chinese Communist Party announced going to check his company. That's very, very obvious. And also, don't mention about a lot of disinformation in different YouTube channel or like just like I say like TikTok or those channel. It really help a lot that people really believe Taiwan government, they are not doing good. And for themselves, the first in like observation that because they don't feel it as well. They just see those numbers going up, but they don't feel, oh, I got more salary now. I got the housing prices going down. No, they don't feel it. And those information come in as well, so they will believe it. They say, oh, they are not a good government. They are not doing a good job. So I vote for the matter KMT or DPP. So I think it's not, also, of course, it's about DPP didn't do well about to tell people what they have done, but also there's some small. I give you one very obvious example. The traffic department, they announced a certain policy that if the taxi driver in Taiwan, they violate the traffic rule, and they will be deducted some points. And at least within some, I don't know, 5 or 10 points or something, your license will be canceled. But, you know, a lot of places, they just, you know, do a little break, like break the traffic line or like parking in the red line for like 10 seconds, and they just left. For those small issues, they affected the people's voting well. They would think, wow, this government wants to take my money in anyhow, anyway. So those policy, even though it's good for the society, but it harms people's feeling. And DPP didn't explain it well to the society. So I think that's one of the very important reasons that because they don't, they kind of become institutionalized before, not as progressive as before. I mean, in the surface.
But
thank you.
For yourself, like what kind of issue you concern the most?
For myself, actually, it's about cross-strait relation. But young people, they don't really like put this in the first priority. So for me, myself, that's my focus. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you mentioned about actually DPP, also the two professors mentioned about DPP didn't really do that well in policies. Everything is going up. So what's the like major factor that DPP still won the presidential election? So this question is for three of you. Do you think it's a China factor or the something?
Perhaps I'll be the first one to. Yeah, I think China factor might play one of the big roles. As I was mentioning earlier, right? Like there are still a lot of Taiwanese people who identify themselves as Taiwanese only, right? And then that has the tendency to have the opinion toward pro-independence, and probably these voters are still quite intact, right? In whatever that's gonna support DPP anyway. So, but I mean, like there are swing voters, of course, right? Like young generations that you were mentioning, they don't care much about. Well, of course, having independence is good, but then if it's just like affects our economic situation so much that we cannot do anything much, and the GDP growth is not like going well. So probably. Why not, choosing alternative parties, and that could probably fix this kind of cross-strait tensions and probably open more opportunity for them, right? Before Tsai Ing-wen came into power and before these intensifications of the cross-strait relations, you see like Chinese tourists, coming to Taiwan, and that, boosts up the economy. I think similar to Thailand case in that sense, right? Like the Chinese tourists and boost the economy. They come to buy property, of course. But then there's the flip side of that, right? I mean, like, of course, property market just like bubble, and then the price get higher, and then that effect, and then that's why probably part of it that people support DPP to just like trying to curb this kind of economic bubbles. So in that sense, I think why 40% still stick with the DPP is that they still believe that DPP would deliver this kind of, at least not, if not like independence, but at least more room for Taiwan's roles in international arenas. And then they probably, it's probably associated with their identities, as a Taiwanese, that they want to make it different. That's probably the factor, I think, important.
I have no exact answer regarding this question, but just to remind you with the figure or the number of the voters comparing with the previous presidential election. In 2020, Tsai Ing-wen earned 8.1 million votes, comparing with Lai Ching-Te, who earned only 5.5 million votes. It means that the DPP lost almost 3 million votes to another parties. So I don't think the DPP can celebrate much victory at this time. Yeah.
So Will, you mentioned about cross relationship. That's what you concern the most. So you will choose a party you think that would be like guard Taiwan the most?
Yeah, I mean like the car between, because during the election, the KMT they play the war card. They say if you choose DPP, there will be a war between Taiwan and China. But that's two sides, because some people will get afraid about it, because I remember in the beginning of the campaign, even like my family, actually they are more like a deep DPP supporter. Even my family talking say oh, maybe I shouldn't choose DPP this time because there will be a war. So it does works. But on the other hand, also DPP didn't just say they didn't just give up, because they did a lot of military reform. For example, the military compulsory system used to be only 4 months, and now it's a brave move to make it back into 1 year, because if the government forces you to go to the army, you probably won't vote for them, right? But they did this like a brave move, bold move, and also they start to build the IDS, the indigenous, the submarine that built by Taiwan itself, and also have a lot of cooperation with other countries, especially US as well. So people can see that, okay, it looks like maybe the war could happen, but it looks like DPP care about it. It doesn't mean oh yeah, if you choose us, the war is going to happen, then we are going to be destroyed. But they try to build up their own defense. So I think that's two sides. That one side, like my family, they get hesitated to say, oh, wow, I should vote for someone else. But on the other hand, also you can see they are trying to build up their own ability. So I think that's one of the reasons people still choosing DPP. I think that's also one of the reasons, if the people care about the cross-strait relation.
So Ajahn Sitipon and Ajahn Paul, do you think there will be any possibility of war in the future, like 1 year or 2 years?
Oh, no war in the short term. Yeah, I think the situation seems to become tense because the DPP and the People's Republic of China have different standpoints. Yeah, but it would not go to war. Yeah, but okay, it is highly possible that the the tension would increase day by day. Yeah, because both sides, I mean, the DPP and the PRC have different standpoint. For the PRC, for mainland China, yeah, it adheres to the so-called 1992 consensus, right? Yeah, it was a result of the informal talks between the representative of the mainland and the Taiwan's authorities in 1992. And after that meeting, they say that although they still have, they could not agree on the details of national unification, but at least they put national unification as a kind of ultimate objective of the Chinese nation. Yeah, and the PRC also stressed that unification must be done in the formula of one country, two system, the same as Hong Kong and Macau. I think this is the standpoint of the PRC. In contrast, for the DPP, it denies the existence of 1992 consensus. And I think Ching-Te already made a clear statement that a precondition for any talks or any negotiation with the mainland is that the mainland must accept Taiwan as a separate political entity, not a province of the People's Republic of China. So therefore, although it is unlikely that China would invade Taiwan soon, within a few years, China will put more pressure on Taiwan militarily, yeah, politically, economically, in order, the purpose of putting more pressure is to force Taiwan's authority to come to the negotiation table for national unification. And I think for regarding China's unification policy, I think Xi Jinping's factor, yeah, play a very crucial role, in a sense that the basis of Xi Jinping's legitimacy now has shifted from delivering economic growth inside the country to satisfying Chinese nationalism by making a breakthrough in external affairs. Because during the past decade of Xi Jinping's rule, he already declared a victory against poverty, yeah, right? Now, so during his third term and for the next term, he must declare a kind of victory in external or foreign affairs. So, yeah, it is highly possible that he tried to make a kind of advanced, yeah, measure in order to show the Chinese people that, okay, he is a strong leader who make a progress of on the issue of national unification.
What do you think, Ajahn?
I also agree with Ajahn Sitipon that probably the tension will continue, but the conflict, armed conflict, might be not possible in the short term, at least. You know, like that brings me to the issue of Taiwan's defense capabilities, right? I mean, like there are a lot of problem with China's military modernizations. In recent years, probably you have heard about corruptions within the armies and PLA, and then that Xi Jinping has to tackle with that. And then probably, if you look at that kind of domestic factors, even though the trajectory of the military modernizations in China has been going up, but then it's not enough, to attack Taiwan at this time, considering all the international factors, the U.S. and U.S. allies in the Asia Pacific, and also if you look at Taiwan's defense capability itself, there are two probably related issues. First is that is Taiwan military capability sufficient to defend themselves, and the second one, if not, and Taiwan wants to strengthen it, right? Will it face an obstacle within Taiwan's parliamentary politics that Ajahn Sitipon was mentioning, that eventually the budget has to pass through these debates, and then eventually it's not going to go through in the DPP direction. So some of you might have heard what so it also probably has to consider other elements developments within Taiwan politics, especially KMT and TPP, and probably former President Ma Ying-jeou's interview, probably if you have recall, before the elections, right? He was saying something that, let me quote, no matter how much you defend yourself, right, you can never fight a war with the mainland, right? You can never win. They are too large and much stronger than us. So, you know, like these kind of sentiments, if you think about like KMT and TPP altogether in the parliament, perhaps that would reduce, you know, the willingness of Taiwan to jump into conflict in the short term. So at the same time, Taiwan, as Will was mentioning, right? Taiwan successfully launched, you know, its first domestically built submarine for testing last year, and recently the landing platform Dock Yusan, right? So yes, it's a success of Taiwan defense upgrade, right? So, but the public also questions how much, you know, we have to do, like how much Taiwan has to do in order to defend itself and defend itself like against the Chinese intrusion or invasion in the future. So probably you have to spend a lot of money, right? And by itself, you cannot do it, as President Ma Ying-jeou was mentioning, right? So that would relate to the role of the U.S. and other great powers in the regions in Taiwan securities, which we can probably discuss later. So related to this point, right? So SKMT and DPP positions is to smoothen normally, just propose to smoothen ties with Beijing, right? That means they might be more careful, right, with the military spending in the future. So that even like decrease the possibility of Taiwan wanting to navigate that, you know, areas of waters into the conflict with China. So while they may also agree to maintain Taiwan's ability to deter the attack, right, both party KMT and TPP, but how much they can support DPP government to do this, that's questions, right? And the word is that they may curb the budget itself for defense spending, right? And wants to divert it to supporting other social and economic policies for Taiwanese people. And then probably, if you think about, you know, domestic politics, that's the goal of each parties. You want to win elections next term. So probably, you know, like they will try not to just like, you know, put too much money on the DPP pocket to just like, you know, have a green light to spend on military spending, and then probably you can tell the voter, right, next time, right? I mean, like, we can stop these and divert this kind of money into economic policy and social policy and welfare policies, and then you should choose me. And probably, you know, KMT could have, you know, more vote, TPP could have more vote, and then DPP next time could just like reduce, you know, get reduced support from the voters. So by doing this, they can tell the voter, right, they are capable of protecting the welfare of Taiwanese. So basically, based on this kind of both domestic setting in Taiwan and capability itself as the, you know, to deter China, and even China problem now, right, like with economic slowdown and you know, some of the problem within the PLA itself. So probably I don't think there are any major factors besides, you know, there will be something that we cannot foresee in the next couple of years to intervene this cross-strait relation. So in the short term, I don't think the conflict could erupt in that, you know, scales.
What do you think, Will? You think there will be wars between Taiwan and China? Because if there will be war, you will be called back to the army, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm still in the reserve list. And it depends on what kind of style of invasion or like intrusion is, because if it's like small conflict, like recently happened between around the area water in Jingmen, and maybe could escalate it in many different kind of case. And also there's quite popular theory that Dongsha Qundao is one of the very important strategic islands that for China to take it and see what Taiwan can do. Because if it's like Taipingdao, that would be more international conflict, so maybe they won't do that. But Dongsha is really close to China, and it's quite far away from Taiwan, so if we want to save it, it's quite difficult, and especially for Taiwanese government, what kind of escalation we are willing to go up to, it's also a challenge for the government. So I think it probably won't be a full invasion soon, because I agree with Professor that their capability, and they are still reforming their own military, and also it's quite unrest now inside of Chinese military structure. So recently, maybe not the full scale of invasion, but some kind of conflict, it could happen, and possibility I think is not that low, but it just depends on what. So yeah, we cannot proceed it, but maybe because this people are talking about like before the inauguration of this year, like May 20, maybe there will be something happen in Taiwan, but again, it depends on what kind of scale they're going to do. So yeah, I hope not, because if the war breaks out, I have to go back.
You'll be called back to the army or something. But because Lai Ching-te has described himself as a pragmatic advocate for Taiwan independence, so after he take office, what do you think it will be? There will be any difficulties if he want to rebuild relationship with China? For Ajahn Sitipon?
Maybe I will start first. I think there's a crucial obstacle for the DPP for making a kind of compromise, or a rapprochement with the mainland. The obstacle is in the DPP charter. If I understand correctly, the DPP charter of the party, promulgated in 1991, still calls for the creation of the Republic of Taiwan. I think this sentence is still problematic, and it is still a kind of obstacle, for Lai Ching-te, to compromise or to have a kind of warmer relations with the other side of the Taiwan Strait. So I think the most pragmatic way for Lai Ching-te in order to smoothen the relations with mainland China is that Taiwan should assure China that Taiwan will not pursue independence or separation as long as China refrains from attacking or threatening Taiwan with military forces. I think if Lai Ching-te make this statement clearly, this would help or smoothen de-escalating the tension across the Taiwan Strait. So I think one of the crucial obstacles is the DPP charter itself, regarding the creation of the so-called Republic of Taiwan. I think Lai Ching-te might need to reconsider this issue.
What do you think, Ajahn Paul?
I think there's several obstacles. Like one, probably Ajahn Sitipon was mentioning already, is about the 1992 consensus, right? Like both agree to disagree, but now like DPP doesn't agree to use this 1992 consensus as a guideline to cement the cross-state relations, and that's probably a lot of details to that. But the second obstacle, I'm not saying this is an obstacle, but like competing forces, right, within the parliament. So go back to the parliamentary politics in Taiwan itself, right? As you understand, DPP didn't win the majority. So it means that probably KMT and TPP might try to play international affairs roles through the parliament. We have probably seen, in recent visit of the KMT representative to mainland, right? So therefore, Mr. Lai and DPP will have to seek more compromises with the KMT and TPP for various issues, and including this kind of like cross-state relations. So we may not see the strong posture against Beijing as we have seen in Tsai administrations. As I was mentioning, the role of KMT in cementing cross-state relations has started, right? Right after the elections, right? Like probably last week, if I don't remember wrong, Mr. Andrew Hsiao, right, the KMT vice chairman visiting Taiwanese resident in mainland, and then talk to Song Tao, right, head of China's Taiwan's affair office in Shanghai. So at the same time, like there's another person's, right, what's his name? Gu Zhenfu, right? The Strait Exchange Foundation chairman, right, met with the Association for Relations Across the Taiwan Strait, chairman Wang Daohan, right? So to exchange idea on how to fix this and increase communications between people of the two sides. So this was happening after the like what Will was mentioning, Kinmen incidents in February 14, right, in which 2 Chinese fishermen died in water near Taiwan's Ru Kinmen Island. So you might see more parliamentary roles, that would compete with the government itself, right, to smoothen the relations with Beijing. So how the DPP can just control this kind of like foreign policy directions under its party, that's probably one of the questions, right? So these role of the 2 parties in the parliament, and especially TPP, that could be a swing voter in this, in many of the policy in the parliaments, right? Because neither KMT or DPP get a majority, so TPP is like has more bargaining power in this policy direction. So probably that would be one of the challenge for Mr. Lai, foreign policy as well. So having more competing actors, to show that they can make a better situations between Taiwan and mainland China.
So we know that the U.S. is going to have election the end of this year, either Trump or Biden being elected. Do you think there will how it will affect the Taiwan, China, and U.S. like triple relationship?
Oh, okay. I don't think the presidential election in the United States would affect any fundamental principle of the U.S. administration regarding the Taiwan Strait. Yeah, because I think the relations between the United States and Taiwan is quite institutionalized. It has a kind of decades-long formal and informal relationship. I think for the in order to maintain peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, I think the role of the United States is very crucial. Yeah, I think what the United States should do is firstly to stand firm in opposing unilateral change to the status quo by both Beijing and Taipei. Status quo means existing reality. Existing realities mean that nowadays, not only nowadays, since 1949, there has been 2 governments on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan and China are not under the same administration. Both sides have their own government. So the United States should stand firm in opposing unilateral change to the status quo by both Beijing and Taipei. For example, if Ching-Te go too far, by declaring independence, the United States must give a kind of warning, as George W. Bush did it with to Chen Shui-bian during that era. And secondly, the United States should emphasize that any change to the status quo is possible, but it must be done by peaceful means, with the consent of the people of both sides of the Taiwan Strait, not only the people of mainland China, but also the consent of the people in Taiwan. In other words, the United States should assure China that the United States would accept China's unification with Taiwan if it is done by peaceful means. I think this is, if the United States make it such a statement clearly, it would greatly make a contribution to the stability across the Taiwan Strait.
Yes, I think, well, I agree in general with Ajahn Sitipon, but I will have some nuances, in this U.S. factors in cross-strait relations, right? I mean, like, if you recall the positions of U.S. conservative parties, especially in the Republican, right, under the Trump leadership earlier, many years ago, he has these ideas of limited interventionist kind of posture in foreign affairs. So one of the narrative Trump used to tell allies and the world, like if you remember, like when Trump came to power, was that the United States will help those who help themselves, right? So if Mr. Lai wants to secure U.S. support, given Trump wins the elections this year, right? Like his government needs to show that Taipei is willing to spend more money, right, to share the cost of military spending, and currently Taiwan's military spending is like probably around 2% of the GDP, which is like very low according to Trump's administration's idea, because if you compare to Israel, roughly around 5%, and probably that would pressure a lot to Taiwanese budget, spending during Lai administrations if he pursued that route. So even though like Mr. Lai was promising that he's going to increase a little bit to 3%, right, from 2%, but is that enough? That's questions to to the Trump administrations if he ever comes to power the next term. So that's still the question. So then it's also entangled with the previous issues I was mentioning earlier about the role of KMT and TPP, right? So DPP only secure 40%, as I was mentioning, in the parliament. So how Lai can persuade them to support his defending budget, boosting, during the administrations. That's another question too. So in order to do so, DPP government may need to even accommodate, KMT or DPP positions to dialogue with Beijing. So that's, like you see a lot of factors entangled within this, the post-elections and the new government of Taiwan. So will these factors, lead to Taipei readiness to talk with Beijing? That's another issue that we probably could talk about, right? I mean, like, I believe that would be some effect, right? I mean, like, if it's changed to Trump administration.
So let's come back to Taiwan itself, because three of you mentioned about TPP, the Taiwan's People Party. It's a really like new party founded just 4 years ago, and it's funded by the former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je. And it's really interesting because it's just a very new and young party, but it win around 3 million votes during this election. So, Will, what do you think? Like, because young people, they are enough with DPP or KMT, so they choose to vote for TPP, right? TPP, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like generally they just, for my own observation of opinion, is like anti-establishment. Like they don't trust the old politics anymore. And I recall like one time when I was in McDonald's. Sometimes like in Taiwan, in Taipei, you will see like young people like study in McDonald's and talk with their friends. I remember that's like 2 days before the election. And there's 2 young girls. They will say, "Oh, are you guys going to vote? Go back to vote?" Say, yeah. And so and then they discuss their family background, and they use it like a despite attitude. Yeah, they all for like a deep green, and they are very proud to going to vote for the TPP because that's a new thing. And I was really surprised. But wow, this is what young generation is thinking now. Yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's like 26% of the vote. I think that's more than people's expectation. So they got a huge win this time. I think next election, the local election, if they have some 1 or 2 mayor or city, the county leaders, then 2028, it could be very different. But if they didn't have anyone win the mayor, then maybe you'll be like the other third party in the past just
disappear.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So, example we talked about before, is this something like something happened in Thailand, like young people, they choose to vote for Move Forward because they are enough with the old politics? Is this something similar?
I think it's similar if we can learn from Taiwan this time, right? I mean, like, for Thailand itself, like, Move Forward parties offer like new policies, options for young generations, and then think with the context of like military control of Thai politics for quite some time, that would be like the way out for them, right? So they would vote for like alternative, like Pheu Thai, surprisingly didn't really win these elections, and that probably is similar to what the DPP is facing now, right? But then, what if I just like play this kind of like scenario? What if like Move Forward parties had won last time, and they became like a government like for a couple of terms, and probably they're gonna fall into the positions of DPP, right? I mean, like people gonna feel like, well, eventually you can't really deliver what you promise anyway. And in policy realities, they are more than just like reasoning and then rational policy making. But there are a lot of factors that you cannot speak, right? That play into policy making. So perhaps it will fall short, right? I mean, in the probably second term of Move Forward Party, if that scenario had happened, but it didn't. Right, so let's see. Probably if next time Move Forward Party still, run in the Thai elections and become the government, that would be one of the proof, right? That whether or not they can deliver what they promised for a couple of years ago.
What about you, Ajahn Sitipong?
Oh, I have no answer for this question, but to be fair, I already urged what should Lai Ching-Te do, what should the United States do. So to be fair, I must urge what should the Chinese authority do. I think for the sake of peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait, I think the Chinese should cease its military operations across the median line and also around the Taipei control offshore islands, in order to strengthen the credibility of China's commitment to a peaceful process. I think this is crucial. This would increase China's credibility, and it would show that China is a kind of responsible power and use peaceful means in solving international conflicts.
Probably I'll add with to Ajahn Sitipong as well. So I totally agree, right? I mean, like, Beijing's role in de-escalating tensions is very important, and it just depends on the leadership of Beijing whether or not it wants this to happen, right? I mean, like, we have seen since the Pelosi visit, right, and the exercise afterwards that, like, the new normal has been created like almost every month or every now and then this is gonna be a new normal, like when Kinmen incidents happen, and then what's next, right? I mean, like, then it doesn't help. I mean, like, China has to probably try to limit and pressure Taiwan less in this area, and opt for showing its cooperative gesture, with Taipei, right? I mean, like, that's difficult probably if you think about like China politics now. This is like entangled with nationalist sentiments in China as well. So this gesture will converge with probably come back to Taiwan politics, KMT and TPP sort of like positions, and that who wants to stabilize the cross-state relations, so that will help them justify the limiting military spending that I was mentioning. So, and DPP, this could be a good way out as well for DPP, right? I mean, like, maintaining the tensions you have seen for 8 years. I'm not like supporting anything, but I mean, just like just for like a casual visit to Taiwan, I've seen some changes, right? I mean, like people's fears and feelings in the societies, and then that's probably, if everyone's, move to the same goal of de-escalating the tensions. That would be one of the way out. So it's true that voter pick DPP this time, 40%, but they also signal DPP that, if you don't fix this kind of tensions, that we have to face on a regular basis, right? Probably next time it's gonna be more, even less, for you. So as I mentioned, actually there are many agreements actually that both Taipei and Beijing probably could capitalize, 20 agreements if I don't remember wrong, ranging from probably notaries, cooperations, postal services, some agricultural cooperations, tourism that has been, stopped since, Tsai Ing-wen came to power. So those available agreements could be like one of the starting point, right? As a low political issues that both sides could work together and trying to stabilize these cross-state relations so that, it will be better with, for both Taiwanese and the region itself. Otherwise, you never know in the future if anything's just intervene in this kind of tensions that could break into conflict. Yeah.
Maybe I can add a little bit. I think because as a citizen, only a citizen in Taiwan, I think every day we see is not we provoking, actually it's them provoking. So for us, I don't think, yeah, of course, to have the willingness to talk with the counterpart is very important. But of course, I don't represent DPP, but so far, I think they are, I don't think they are the one who turned it down. For example, I remember after Nancy Pelosi, the McCain, the other House of Speaker, yeah. In the beginning, he's coming to Taiwan, but instead of he coming, Tsai Ing-wen paid the visit to U.S. Actually, it's kind of de-escalating the situation, getting more intense. So actually, I don't think, yeah, of course, willing to talk or create an opportunity to talk is important. But on the other hand, I don't think it's the one we should be responsible about this. It should be the other one, the counterpart. That's what I think.
Okay, so now we can take questions from the floor. There's a microphone, so if you want to ask questions, please go to the microphone.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. To what extent is the situation in Taiwan essentially a derivative of U.S.-China relations? First question. And secondly, isn't the current situation of Taiwan, in other words, the status quo, sort of the best that could be hoped for? Because a change in one direction or the other is obviously going to trigger a conflict which is completely out of the control of Taiwan.
Who go first?
That's a problem too, right? I mean, whether or not Taiwan constitute that priorities in U.S. foreign policies and strategies. If you compare, if you think about U.S. Role in international affairs, it has a lot of things on its plate, right? As there's a war in Ukraine, Israel and Palestinian, conflict, probably something in the Middle East, in Central Asia, a lot of things, right? I mean, that's one of the problem, how much Taiwan constitute this priority in U.S. Foreign policy and strategy. So perhaps within it goes back to our discussion earlier that I was mentioning about the transitions of power in the hills, right? I mean, if it becomes Trump, probably China factor is gonna be the main, probably one of the main priorities. And probably we have, I think I've noticed from one of the former Trump's advisors in his administrations, probably he's in the Pentagon, Elbridge Colby, right? He was mentioning that, well, yeah, China is the priorities of Trump, right, administration if he comes back. But then he doesn't suggest that Taiwan is important, right? That doesn't translate into lifting or elevating Taiwan's positions in Trump administrations, because it goes back to what I was saying, that Colby also mentioned about, like, Israel spending more money on military spending, while Taiwan is just like sort of like free riders in U.S. Military costs to protect Taiwan. So and how much the U.S. can do, that's probably so it's important to show that like U.S. still active and protect its allies in the regions, democracies as ideologies or one of this, but to protect Taiwan totally, that's another question, and how much that constitute across the board in U.S. Foreign policy making, that's still debatable.
Sometimes I have a feeling that, yes, on the one hand, the United States have long-term friendship with Taiwan since the Kuomintang era. Yeah, so the United States commitment to protect Taiwan is based on democracy, freedom, or something like that. But on the other hand, it is possible that the United States might use Taiwan as a bargaining chip in order to negotiate with China. For example, in the case of North Korea, because we have to realize that there are two flashpoints in Northeast Asia, the Taiwan Strait and also North Korea. It is possible that if the United States want the PRC or want China to pressure the North Korea more and more, the United States might make a kind of bargaining or exchange. For example, if the Chinese pressure Pyongyang more and more, the United States would reduce its arms sale to Taiwan in reciprocal manner or something like that. I think it's possible to have such kind of bargaining chip, because I think the United States calculate the situation of Northeast Asia, not specifically at the Taiwan Strait, but as a whole, the flashpoint of the whole region.
Will, you want to say something?
I think that one of the most direct influence from U.S. is the arms sale, and also recently we have a kind of like FTA, but it doesn't code FTA. It's a long name. I forgot that something FTA. Between Taiwan and U.S. is also very like influential that to change Taiwan or to move Taiwan's policy. And also the professor mentioned they always, during the Trump administration, I remember they asked Taiwan government to increase the defense budget over 3%. And so far Taiwan government haven't reached the numbers. But moreover, there's a lot of like co-op, because between Taiwan and US, officially there's no relation. So they cannot have any way of like official visiting. But some on the table of the military exchange or official change is getting more and more before. I remember that's one thing I think is quite groundbreaking change is since last year, Taiwan sent 2 battalion troops to US. Used to be only like personnel, like people 1 or 2 go to West Point or Virginia or like this kind of visiting. But from last year, it's the size of a battalion. That's totally different compared to the other interaction between Taiwan and US militarily. So in this direct influence that make Taiwan a lot of in the, how do I say, in US side, it changed a lot. But go back to Taiwan politics, because now no one is the majority party in the House. So, and some of the oppositional party like KMT or TPP, they already vowed to against, for example, the budget to build a submarine that Taiwan built itself. So it could, and it will have a lot of obstacle in this coming 4 years. Maybe in the future, just like the professor say, the vice chairman of KMT, he just visit China. That it made Taiwan looks like they're going to have some kind of dialogue. But in this specific case, the Chinese government asked Taiwan Coast Guard to apologize because there's a 2 life lost in this incident. But if you come back to the original, the cause of this 2 life lost is because they crossed the strait, they crossed the line. So Taiwan Coast Guard have to cast them away. So of course, accident happened in the end. So if really the Taiwan government or Taiwan Coast Guard apologize to China side, I don't think in the future, of course the tension will be less, but the sovereignty will be bit by bit lost. That's what I think.
Hello, I have 2 related questions. Well, I guess they aren't really related, but 2 questions. So the first is to do with Ko and Zhe and the TPP. I'm wondering if there's a consensus as to whether, if the TPP were not taking place in this election, how would the results have changed? Would that support have naturally gone to the DPP, or perhaps voters would have stayed home? Curious to know your thoughts on that. My second question is to do with Taiwan's broader international relations and how Taiwan is faring in terms of this kind of like, Taiwan has been losing its international allies and support in a way, right? This kind of official diplomatic relation. How will the new DPP administration deal with this? Do you see any parliamentary kind of subterfuge happening with the KMT perhaps trying to stop these? Because Taiwan has made significant strides in terms of like international organizations and certain member states of the EU in terms of kind of gaining some diplomatic prominence.
Very short. I think if TPP doesn't exist, I mean, not exist, they didn't participate in this election, DPP will lost.
Oh, you think so?
I think, yeah, that's what I think, because either those people don't come out to vote, either they will vote for KMT. That's what I think, yeah. Because before the election, actually TPP, Ko-en-je, and KMT, they are talking about cooperation. If they really cooperate, DPP will not win. That's what I think. And the diplomatic breakthrough, how can the Lai Ching-te did? I think not only, I think the Chai government, they already announced, I forgot like which year, to there's a dual recognition. But so far, it doesn't work. Yeah, but so far I don't know how, maybe yeah, I have no idea. How can they really push through with this dilemma?
I probably not totally disagree with you, but then it's not necessarily that like the people who vote for TPP would vote for other parties. Well, I still believe that if they don't have any alternative, they still at least half of them will vote for DPP. So in that case, probably that will have more chance for DPP to get more vote, greater than 40%. But that's probably something that didn't happen. So we didn't really know what was going to be happen, like if it had happened. So, but to the second questions about this, I think it goes back to probably what KMT was trying to justify, right? I mean, like, I remember like there was an interview by one of the KMT leaders. He was like mentioning about, you know, like compare between Ma Ying-jeou administrations and Tsai Ing-wen administrations, you know, who lost more country, right? I mean, like Ma Ying-jeou, probably one country is just like, you know, the fact to recognize the Beijing, right? But then during Tsai administrations, probably more countries. And if you continue this stance, you know, against Beijing and probably not de-escalating the tensions, you're gonna lose more, right? So probably that goes back to the issues of like, you know, how DPP could try to, you know, dialogue with Beijing, and probably that could cool down the pressure from diplomatic pressure from Beijing on other small island or small countries that still ally with Taiwan.
And Ajahn Sitipon?
Regarding the second question, I think now the Taiwan's authority already accept the so-called realpolitik in the sense that it is impossible to increase the number of Taiwan's diplomatic allies. So the only possible way for Taiwan to expand its international space is try to increase people to people contact, people to people exchange. Yeah. Taiwan's participation in international organization is still have a problem, because in the law, not the law, in the charter of many organizations, it says that members of that organization must be a state, right? So I think the only possible way for Taiwan is to increase people to people's exchange and cooperation. The purpose of this activity is to show the world that Taiwan still survives despite no diplomatic allies at all, or only a few diplomatic allies. I think this is the best possible way for Taiwan.
Right. I think Will has offered his stance as from his perspective. So I'm here to offer my as from the other side. We, as our station is that we believe one China principle has been the foundation of peace and security across the Taiwan Strait. And what has been happening in recent years, a lot of things, is because those spaces has been eroded. The DPP government never acknowledged the 1992 consensus. And the US government, well, I was glad to hear that Ajahn Sitipon mentioned that the US has an important role to play to keep the peace and security in the, across the strait. But our concern is that what if peace and security is not their priority, but to use it to against China, to curb China's rise, and to like, well, even that could be something happen. So so that's what I want to offer.
You want to say something? Respond? No?
Yeah, I think in this difficult situation, I know that every party, three parties, the United States, China, and Taiwan already have their own interests, their own concern, yeah, their own emphasis. Yeah. But I think the best way is that each side must try to assure the other side. Yeah, yeah. I think this is important. Yeah, clear communication. Yeah, what is the bottom line of each side? Yeah, so that's why I said that I propose that the United States must clearly state that it would accept China's reunification with Taiwan if it is done by peaceful means. I think if the U.S. president said this sentence clearly, this would decrease China's concern regarding its sovereignty issue.
Yeah, but I mean, reunification, it's what China wants. and it depends if Taiwanese people, doesn't matter like a peaceful unification or either like a by force unification. According to the survey in Ching-Te, as more and more people recognize themselves as a Taiwanese, and also compared to do you want to be unified in the future or now, it's getting less and less than before. So I think Taiwanese will, it's most important, especially it's related to Taiwanese future. That's what I want to say.
Hi. So, you know, of course, ideally, everything would be a peaceful unification. And I'm just wondering, how do you see that happening? Because, for example, you know, this thing has been going on for 70 years, however, decades. And I think with what's our observations of what happened to Hong Kong, I think there's even less trust on Taiwan's side. So we keep talking about, oh, peaceful reunification, peaceful reunification. I right now have trouble seeing under what circumstances Taiwan would be like, sure, let's do it, you know? So that's one. Number two is, you know, talking about like not posturing or escalating tensions, things like that, and let's do it peacefully. But I think the reason why China is getting frustrated and resorted to that because I think they feel they have been trying to do peacefully. So for the past decade or so or more, for example, there used to be no direct flights. In about a decade or more, they had started direct flights between Taiwan, Shanghai, and into China. So that was, they tried that. Then they tried increased tourism. So a lot of China tourists went to Taiwan. Then several years ago, DPP comes in power. They shut that off. China's given incentives for business and trade, so they've given comrade passports to Taiwanese so that Taiwanese have benefits. You can stay 1 year, foreigner 6 months. You have a free landing visa, but everybody else has to apply. And just, they tried the candy method, right? And then also the other thing I think they're frustrated is because on the other side is, like you said about the people's will. The trend is toward like, I'm not Chinese, I'm not China. So I think that's another element why China's frustrated because it's like you're going further and further away. And then they tried the sweet way. It's not happening. So that's why they're like, I'm done. And especially like already they're frustrated, but then you have Pelosi, then you have Taiwan's visit, and it's like, they're done. They're like, no talking. Now it's like, I'm gonna take action. So, and the last comment is about, I think, I agree it'd be nice if, President of Taiwan says, make a statement and say we're not gonna declare independence or whatever it is. But in general, I think actions speak louder than words. And for me, I've never really fully trusted, I don't like to generalize, but politicians, they say one thing, do another, things like that. So those are my comments, thank you.
Do you want to respond her?
I don't know if this would be a response, but I think for the future arrangement between China and Taiwan, both sides of the Taiwan Strait must think beyond the concept of nation state. Don't forget that the concept of nation state only exists after the year 1648. After the signing of the Treaty of Westphalia, you have to read European history. But it is a new norm. Humankind has existed for thousands of years, but the norm of nation state only started less than 400 years ago. So for the Taiwan Strait, I think both Beijing and Taipei must consult with each other, for the framework of the so-called unification. It may be possible, but it is very difficult to be done under the framework of nation state because both sides already have their own kind of national consciousness. Peoples in mainland China already have one experience. Peoples living on the Taiwan island since the late 19th century also have a kind of another historical narrative. Their life has been very different from those on the mainland. So it is very difficult for one side to force a kind of grand narrative on the other side. So both sides should consult with each other and find a formula for unification, but that formula must be beyond the concept of nation state.
Yeah, probably I add John's point. I also agree. Probably like alternative arrangement could probably bridge, between Beijing and Taipei, right, in the futures. Probably we have to talk about this in the previous seminar.
At ISIS.
Yeah, as ISIS seminars last month, right? I mean, like the former foreign ministers of Singapore was like flying these ideas of sort of like confederation sort of ideas, so that allowing Taiwan to maintain its own autonomy at greatest extent, right? But like still agree to work under so-called like the label of China, and that's the like what John Sisipon was saying, that right? I mean, like you have to just like think beyond this like nation state concept, right? That could operate within these cross-strait relations, and then the very big issue is now that I think China just has to admit that like what Ajahn Sipon was saying, that thing would never change back, right? I mean, like not returning to when KMT retreated to Formosa Islands like in 1949, and then now things change, has changed and different route, and that's the realities that the Chinese has to understand, right? I mean, like Taiwanese identities, has been rising. And that unstoppable. I mean, like, so that thing, they have to probably think about this and trying to find the other alternative arrangement. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think if anyone knows this, answer to this question is gonna get a Nobel Peace Prize, I guess, right? I mean, like, you just have to have the political will, right, to work together. But currently, things is not like that, right? And things like, you just want to pursue certain route, the other one just want to adhere to the old way of doing things. So it's not gonna solve any problem.
No, I don't have any solution for that as well. But I remember quite vivid, one time there's some friends asked me, what if China become democraticized? Would you reunify it with them? Because I mean, actually, for me to answer that question before is like no. But I mean, but if they are democraticized, would you reunite with them? My answer is, if everyone can choose what they want in their country, I don't think Taiwan independence is a problem anymore. That's my answer.
Oh, I got a question, because if we want to solve the problem, so maybe in the future Taiwan and China will have to have a peaceful talk, and Singapore used to be the negotiator. And do you think Thailand could be the negotiator in the future?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think Singapore can be the third party, because I think for decades, Beijing and Taipei treat the Singaporean government as a kind of peoples in the same family. Yeah, so it is legitimate for Singapore to take part in the so-called kind of family affair. But Thailand, although we have a motto, 中泰一家亲, but that is only a motto, yeah. Just only to smoothen the rhetoric for smoothen the Sino-Thai relations. But it could not be a kind of it could not be a kind of advantage for Thailand to play that part, to take part in that role. Yeah, I think the Chinese and the Taipei, yeah, would trust those in the family. Yeah.
I mentioned this because I think Thailand has no tension between China nor Taiwan, And also like everybody thinks Thailand is a peaceful land. So that's just what I think. So any questions from the floor?
Thank you for all the speakers, and really got a lot of insights tonight. And I have a question that actually I visited Taiwan for this election, and a couple of days before this election, I visited Xu Xinliang, the former chairman of DPP, and he has an argument that really, I mean, I still have in mind that he said the Taiwan and China relationship mainly affected by the U.S.-China relationship. So the Taiwan political elite should play an active role to facilitate or to control the risk in between of the U.S.-China relationship. I'm not sure, like Mr. Yang, how do you like think about his opinions? It's quite new for me, so just mention and want to know the other perspective. Thank you.
I didn't fully understand.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, let me just develop a little bit. So, Mr. Xu Xinliang, his argument is like the Taiwan-China relationship is mainly like affected by the U.S.-China relationship. So, Taiwan like political elite could like, or should like play an active role to control the risk in between of China and the U.S. to help Taiwan and China free from the war, for example. So that's his conclusion.
Yeah, that's the international politics. I think, yeah, I mean, for the nation to nation, it's not friend, it's benefit. It's always about benefit. So if in the future, if America really come to like defend Taiwan, it's not because they like Taiwan, it's because the interest. So for sure, the playground it's between just like Xu Xinliang or it's like, yeah, it's not a good word to hear, but like that's the fact. That's what I think.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? More questions? No? Okay, thank you guys for coming today, and that's a wrap up today. And if you want to talk to the speakers, please feel free to talk to them. And we have more events in FCCT this week and the coming weeks, so you can check FCCT website, FB, Twitter or something. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming.